Welcome, my ladies of inestimable value. The loudest sound you'll ever hear is the silence of someone who knows their worth. For a Sigma female, being ignored isn't a heartbreak, it's a revelation. Did you know that humans are wired to seek social validation as much as they crave food or water? Well, guess what? Sigma females are the exception to that rule. When you ignore her, she doesn't crumble. She doesn't chase. Instead, she evaluates, recalibrates, and probably thanks the universe for showing her the dead weight she needs to cut loose. Here's the kicker. Ignoring a Sigma female is like trying to play chess with someone who's already mastered the game. You might think you're making a move, but she's 10 steps ahead, sipping tea and planning her next masterpiece. Keep watching to find out exactly what happens when you underestimate a woman who thrives in the quiet power of her own presence. Trust me, it's not what you expect, and it's definitely not what you're ready for. Number 1. She won't chase, she'll vanish. When a Sigma female gets ignored, she doesn't panic, overthink, or try to figure out where things went wrong. Instead, she does something far more unsettling. She vanishes. And it's not the dramatic kind of disappearance meant to grab attention. It's subtle, quiet, and absolute. She doesn't beg for explanations or send cryptic messages looking for answers. No, she steps back so completely that you'll start questioning whether she was ever there to begin with. This isn't about playing games or trying to make you miss her. It's about reclaiming her energy. When ignored, she sees it as a clear signal to stop investing in something that's not reciprocating. Her withdrawal isn't a plea for your attention. It's an act of self-preservation. She knows her time and presence are valuable. And if someone doesn't see that, she won't waste another second proving it. What makes it so powerful is the calmness with which she does it. There's no anger, no resentment, no messy fallout. She just leaves. You won't hear her slam the door. You'll just notice one day that the door is locked, the lights are off, and she's nowhere to be found. And the worst part? By the time you realize what's happened, she's already moved on to something better, something that matches her value. It's unsettling because she doesn't make noise on her way out, and her silence speaks volumes. You're left sitting in the echo of her absence, wondering how someone could detach so effortlessly. That's the beauty of her vanishing act. While you're busy wondering if you made a mistake, she's already too far ahead to care. Ignoring her doesn't make her weaker. It sharpens her resolve to leave and never look back. Number 2, she withdraws access to her mind. When a Sigma female feels ignored, one of the first things she does is shut down access to her mind. Her thoughts, advice, and insights are not given out freely to those who don't value them. She sees her intellect and perspective as a gift, one that only a select few deserve. If you're not willing to acknowledge her presence, don't expect to have access to the depth of her mind. Her withdrawal is not petty, it's principled. A Sigma female knows her brilliance is not for everyone, and she refuses to waste it on someone who treats her like an afterthought. She won't argue, demand attention, or try to prove her worth. Instead, she'll quietly pull back, leaving you to notice the sudden absence of her advice, her ideas, and her unique way of solving problems. It's not just about her opinions, though. A Sigma female's mind is a safe haven for those she trusts, where others can share their dreams, vulnerabilities, and fears without judgment. If you take her for granted, you lose that safe space. And make no mistake, once she locks that door, it's almost impossible to open again. The irony is that you may not even realize what you've lost until you're stuck grappling with problems she used to help you navigate effortlessly. That's the kind of clarity she brings to the table. Clarity that you now no longer have access to. Ignoring her might feel like a small action in the moment, but it costs you something big, the privilege of experiencing her unique brilliance and the profound connections she creates. And once it's gone for good. Number 3, she outclasses the situation. When a Sigma female is ignored, she doesn't waste time plotting petty comebacks or engaging in childish games to get attention. That's beneath her. Instead, she outclasses the situation with grace and an unshakable sense of self-worth. She knows that reacting emotionally or stooping to someone else's level only gives them control over her. And that's a power she refuses to hand over. Her response is silence, not the awkward kind, but the kind that speaks louder than any words ever could. It's the silence of someone who knows they're irreplaceable and has no interest in proving it. She doesn't give explanations, she doesn't seek closure, and she doesn't throw shade. Instead, she lets her absence do all the talking. What sets her apart is her refusal to let the situation define her. While others might spiral into overthinking or retaliation, she channels her energy into becoming better, mentally, emotionally, and even professionally. You ignore her, and she'll take that time to upgrade her life in ways you'll probably regret not being around to witness. Her composure is what truly stings. While you're busy wondering if she's upset or plotting revenge, she's already moved on to bigger things. And here's the kicker. She doesn't even do it to teach you a lesson. She does it because she genuinely doesn't have the time or energy for unnecessary drama. By refusing to engage, she maintains her dignity and lets her actions do the work of showing just how irrelevant the situation has become to her. Her silence is not just a lack of words, it's a declaration of power, proving that she's far too elevated to let someone else's behavior dictate her response. That's the ultimate outclassing move, one that leaves you wondering how you ever thought ignoring her was a good idea. Number 4, she becomes a mirror of your energy. When a Sigma female gets ignored, she doesn't argue, explain, or demand your attention. She simply matches the energy you give her, and the impact of that reflection can be startling. If you decide to act indifferent, she won't fight for your acknowledgement. Instead, she'll let you feel exactly what it's like to be on the receiving end of the energy you've chosen to project. This isn't a vengeful act, but a natural response rooted in her ability to maintain emotional balance. If you ignore her, she won't force her way into your world. Instead, she'll build an invisible wall between you and her, and suddenly, you'll feel like an outsider looking in. The warmth, understanding, and effort she once extended will disappear without a trace, replaced by a calm, unbothered detachment. What makes this so unnerving is how effortless she makes it look. She doesn't need to make grand statements or play games. She simply mirrors your behavior. The more you pull away, the further she retreats. The more distant you become, the colder she grows. And when she's done matching your frequency, she steps back completely, leaving you stranded in the emptiness you created. This mirroring isn't just a passive response, it's a quiet revelation. It forces you to confront your own actions and their consequences. And the irony? By the time you realize the damage you've done, she's already moved on, leaving you wondering if you'll ever find your way back into her world. Spoiler alert, you probably won't. She only mirrors your energy once, and if it's not worth reflecting, she moves on to people who actually deserve her light. Number 5, she turns emotional distance into emotional freedom. When a Sigma female gets ignored, she doesn't sit around dissecting the reasons or wallowing in rejection. Instead, she flips the script entirely. What might feel like emotional distance to others becomes emotional freedom for her. To her, being ignored is less of a wound and more of an unspoken permission slip to reclaim her energy and focus on what truly matters, herself. She doesn't waste time analyzing what went wrong or obsessing over how to fix it. She understands that rejection, intentional or not, is just life's way of clearing the noise. For her, it's not about proving her worth to someone who didn't see it. It's about using the space created by that distance to amplify her own sense of purpose and direction. This emotional freedom is what sets her apart. Instead of clinging to connections that feel shaky or chasing validation, she dives headfirst into her passions, goals, and personal growth. The energy she might have spent on someone who ignored her gets redirected into building a life that excites her. And the best part? She's not doing it to make a point or spark regret in anyone else. It's purely for her. By turning emotional distance into emotional freedom, she transforms what could have been a moment of self-doubt into an opportunity for self-expansion. It's not that she's unaffected by being ignored, she just refuses to let it define her. Instead, she takes it as a reminder that her energy is best invested in places and people that truly value her. In the end, being ignored doesn't break her. It empowers her to focus on her own path, free from the distractions of those who don't deserve her attention in the first place. Number 6. She observes, but she won't engage. When a Sigma female gets ignored, she doesn't rush to confront or demand answers. Instead, she steps back and watches. But don't mistake her silence for indifference. She's observing, analyzing, and quietly taking notes. Every action, every inconsistency, every overlooked detail becomes data she uses to assess whether you're worth any more of her time. And here's the twist. She's not just looking at what you do, she's reading between the lines of what you don't do. This observational phase isn't fueled by bitterness or an urge to make you feel small. It's simply her way of protecting her energy. Sigma females don't hand out their loyalty or attention lightly, so if you're ignoring her, she wants to know why. Is it a momentary lapse, or are you showing her exactly who you are? Either way, she doesn't need to pry or provoke to get her answer. She lets your actions do all the talking. But what makes her approach so unnerving is her refusal to engage. She won't argue, won't call you out, won't even drop hints that she's watching. She's the silent observer, the calm presence in the room that you might not even notice until it's too late. And once she's gathered enough information, her decision is final. If you've proven yourself unworthy, she'll close that chapter without hesitation or regret. What's most striking is how effortlessly she moves on. She doesn't dwell on what could have been or replay scenarios in her mind. You either align with her values or you don't. And if you don't, she won't lose a second of sleep over it. She's already flipped the page and started writing a new chapter, one that doesn't include you. Number 7. She'll view it as a test you failed. When you ignore a Sigma female, you're unwittingly stepping into an unspoken test, one you likely didn't even know existed. Loyalty, respect, and effort are all on the line, and failing means you've made a permanent impression, just not the kind you were hoping for. To her, actions, or the lack of them, speak louder than words, and being ignored is all the evidence she needs to draw her conclusion. This isn't about being hypersensitive or expecting perfection. Sigma females understand life gets busy, people get distracted, and priorities shift. But there's a difference between being temporarily overlooked and being outright dismissed. When she feels ignored, she doesn't sit around making excuses for you. Instead, she sees it for what it is, a lack of respect or care. And once she recognizes that, the test is over and you've failed. Here's the kicker. There's no makeup exam. She's not the kind to grant second chances easily. Why? Because she values herself too much to repeatedly invest in people who can't even meet the basic requirements of acknowledgement and appreciation. It's not about revenge or bitterness. It's about self-respect. The beauty and the sting of her approach is its finality. She doesn't leave room for misunderstandings or false hope. If you've shown her through your actions that you don't value her presence, she'll take you at your word. No dramatic exit, no drawn-out confrontations, just a quiet withdrawal that speaks volumes. By the time you realize what you've lost, she's already moved on to people and opportunities that match her energy. Because for a Sigma female, being ignored isn't just a slight. It's a test of your character. And once you fail, there's no going back. Number 8, she'll let you feel the weight of losing her. When a Sigma female decides to walk away after being ignored, she doesn't just leave. She creates an unmistakable void. Her presence isn't the kind you can easily replace. It's not about ego or playing hard to get. It's the simple reality of someone whose energy, insight, and authenticity added genuine value to your life. And when she's gone, that absence is deafening. She knows the impact she brings, whether it's her unique perspective, her calm yet powerful presence, or the way she elevates every situation she's part of. Her essence isn't something you can overlook for long. When she's around, she doesn't demand attention or approval, but the quiet strength she carries has a way of grounding and inspiring those fortunate enough to experience it. So when you've ignored her to the point where she finally detaches, the loss feels disproportionate. It's not just losing her, it's losing the balance, support, and spark she brought into your life. Here's the thing. She won't rush to remind you of what you've lost. She doesn't need to. She'll move on with quiet dignity, focusing on her own growth and surrounding herself with people who recognize her worth. Meanwhile, you're left standing in the silence, feeling the weight of her absence like a missing piece you didn't know you needed until it was gone. And that's where the gravity hits. The casual conversations, the thoughtful advice, the unspoken support, it all vanishes, leaving you to realize that what you ignored wasn't just another connection. It was extraordinary, and now it's gone. A Sigma female doesn't linger in places where she isn't valued, but her absence will linger in a way that's impossible to ignore. By the time you feel the full weight of losing her, she's already thriving somewhere else. Number 9, she cuts the strings completely. When a Sigma female is ignored and decides to move on, there are no half measures, no lingering hope for reconciliation. She doesn't leave a door cracked open for you to slip back through later. She cuts the strings completely. Once she's made her decision, it's final. And that's where most people get it wrong. They assume there's a chance to fix things or that she's just playing hard to get. But for her, it's never about playing games. She values clarity. And if you've shown her that you're not worthy of her time or energy, she makes sure there's no ambiguity left. The beauty of this finality is that it's not messy or dramatic. There's no confrontation, no need for a big emotional blow-up. She simply stops investing, and that's the end of it. She won't drag things out or give you chances to earn back her trust. Once she's concluded that the relationship or interaction is no longer aligned with her values, she moves on. No second thoughts, no lingering attachment. She doesn't keep the emotional baggage of someone who's let her down. She just sheds it, like a snake shedding its skin. What makes this so effective and potentially devastating is that you won't even see it coming. She's not the type to announce her exit or make a scene. She just quietly and decisively withdraws, leaving you to piece together what happened. And by the time you realize she's truly gone, it's usually too late. The space she leaves behind can't be filled because she doesn't leave anything of herself lying around for you to pick up. She moves forward without hesitation, while you're left to reflect on your own misstep. When a Sigma female decides she's done, and there's no coming back from it. Number 10. She becomes the one who ignores. When a Sigma female decides you've crossed the line or that you no longer deserve her attention, she becomes the one who ignores. And she's a master at it. It's not just a matter of pulling away or being less responsive. It's a complete shift in energy. Once her focus drifts away from you, it's as if you no longer exist in her orbit. She doesn't waste time wondering whether she should reconnect or if it's all a misunderstanding. She just doesn't look back. Her detachment isn't petty or driven by spite. It's a reflection of her own self-preservation. She knows how precious her time and energy are, so once she makes the call to disengage, she does so with a level of finality that leaves no room for doubt. You could be sending the most heartfelt messages, making grand gestures, or trying to win her over with promises of change, but it won't make a difference. Her mind is already elsewhere. And once she's made that internal shift, no amount of effort can pull her back. What's so striking about this is that she doesn't feel the need to explain herself or justify her decision. Unlike others who might feel obligated to clarify their actions, the Sigma female understands that silence can be far more powerful than words. She doesn't owe anyone an explanation for choosing to prioritize herself. And once she moves on, it's like trying to catch a shadow. You can't force it to come back, no matter how hard you try. In the end, when a Sigma female decides to ignore you, it's not a passive act. It's a deliberate choice to stop giving energy to something that no longer serves her. And once she shifts her attention, she's gone, with no desire to return. In the end, a Sigma female's response to being ignored is a powerful reminder that she is not someone to be taken for granted. She doesn't chase, she doesn't beg, and she doesn't waste her precious energy on those who fail to recognize her value. Her reactions, from her complete withdrawal to her sharp detachment, are all reflections of a woman who knows her worth and refuses to settle for anything less. When you're ignored by her, it's not an invitation to seek her attention. It's a lesson in what it feels like to lose someone who moves with a quiet strength that leaves an undeniable void. For those who overlook her, thinking she'll always be there to pick up the pieces, the reality is far harsher. She doesn't return to what no longer serves her. And once she decides you're no longer worth her time, there's no going back. Her energy becomes her own, and in the silence she leaves behind, you'll realize the magnitude of your mistake. Only too late. Because when a Sigma female cuts ties, it's done with an elegance and finality that's as refreshing as it is unforgiving. The lesson here? If you're fortunate enough to have her in your life, never take her presence for granted, because once she's gone, you'll feel the weight of losing someone extraordinary, and there's no coming back from that. If you found these insights as powerful and eye-opening as we know they are, make sure to subscribe to the channel. You don't want to miss out on more brutally honest, game-changing content that dives deep into the mind of the Sigma female and beyond. Join our community and stay ahead of the curve with the kind of content that doesn't just scratch the surface but takes you straight to the heart of what truly matters. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because once you understand the Sigma female's world, you'll never see relationships, power, or even yourself the same way again. Thanks for watching, my ladies. See you in the next video. Bye for now, and God bless.